Hello guys, this is Dan. Welcome back to my channel and huge welcome if you're new here. Welcome to this episode of 5-Star Quest where I'm going on a hunt for my next 5-star raid every month. August was a bit of a roller coaster, should we say. I started with a very hyped space opera, but I have to make a very important decision while I was halfway through. Then I switched to a self-published epic that totally pulled me in, and I finished off the month with a romantasy, which I secretly enjoy. If you know me well, romantasy and me don't usually mix well together. But did I find a 5-star book in August? Let's find out together. Woo! I know some of you guys are interested in my reviews of The Empire of Silence by Christopher Rocchio, so I have decided to do a check-in while I am more or less 30% into this story. To be fair, I don't really know what should I expect from this book or from this series. All I know about it is going to be about the character who is going to be the Sun Eater. It is a series that got hyped, that got quite popular, maybe around last year. So basically, I am following the crowd to see what's so good about this series. I know that some of you say that this series is going to be on the slower side in terms of the modern fantasy or like sci-fi opera sort of writing style, but not as low as like River Saga by Raymond E. Weiss or Memory, Sorrow and Thorn by Ted Williams, which I totally get. Like I said, I am more or less 30% into the story, but honestly, I don't really know what should I expect from it. Like other really popular epic fantasy series that I have read, it started with our main characters, Hadrian's past. It is like in the very beginning, we know that he's going to be a very controversial character because, he is the Sun Eater, right? Since then, we will thrown back to Hadrian's past since his childhood to see what's so special about him. We will introduce to his family and their family business. We will get to know more about his parents and what sort of relationship they are having, what sort of business they are doing individually, what they are really like, Hadrian's relationship with his brother, what sort of parenting style Hadrian is grown up with, and hence what sort of dreams he want to chase after. Because of this family dynamic and relationship, there are already some really big family drama. But like I said, I'm still very early in the series and we ultimately know he will become the Sun Eater. I'm just not too sure how the plot gonna evolve from this childhood to become the Sun Eater. At this stage, we know that Hadrian want to follow his heart and do what he really wants, but we know that this road isn't going to be easy for him. There are also some political dilemmas that he may need to take care of in the future, which I'm not too sure will it be finished in this book. But the pacing, I do agree that it is on the slower side, definitely not as fast as in like Echo Saga or like the Bound and the Broken series. The plot is like to us, it is cooking towards this direction, but suddenly throw a note to you and we are driving to another direction. We have been thrown around like this for quite some time now, so I guess this is also the reason why I think the plot is a bit uncertain or unpredictable. By the way, it is my very first time to try out any sort of space opera. I have read some sci-fi before, but I don't think it is that many, maybe even less than 5. This book I wouldn't say is as hardcore as The Martian, which is like full of chemistry and physics lessons. This one is slightly easier because it is a space opera. Did I say sci-fi opera many times again? We got some really cool mechanism already, let's say holographic something, spaceship, some sort of vessels that can freeze your life while you're on a long haul, or even some sort of technology that can allow you to have children but without sex. I am like a newbie to space opera, so at this moment, I would say I am fine with it. I'm just not a massive fan yet. In my mind, I treat it like we don't have any like shattered kingdoms, but we have different sort of planets or like solar system. We don't have any elves or we don't have any dwarfs, but we have other races. Or even we don't have any magic system, but we got some sort of really cool technology. Is it really like a good metaphor? I don't know, but This is how I approach a space opera from someone who mainly read fantasy. So far, would I say it is going to be a 5-star read? Unfortunately, no. I think it is more like a standard 3 or high 3 now because, like I said, I'm a newbie to space opera. I still need to get used to the pacing of this author. By the way, Christopher Roccio is a new author to me. I'm not too sure will my mind change later because we are still quite early into the story. I don't really know how to describe it, but so far the plot is, like I said, we are like thrown around here and there. I want like a more concrete journey in a sense. So let's check it out. So guys, don't hate me because I make this important decision. I have actually decided to give Empire of Silence a pause. Since last update, I think I've read over 30% more and I'm actually quite close to the ending. I think I've got less than 150 pages left, but still I have to make this decision. I agree with you guys. You guys are saying that this book is slightly slower than other modern epic fantasy series, but that is not the biggest issue. I think I'm over 60% or even 70% into the story, and it is the moment when it started to unfold. You may think it is quite a good thing, right? But what I struggle the most with the Empire of Silence is we are over halfway through, but we are already in different settings. Honestly, Hajun has just gone through so much in just the first book of a new series. Like we are introduced to his dysfunctional family, maybe he got a mentor that he can look up to. Looks like his life is turning another direction and looking for a new adventure. Maybe then his life hit so hard and the next moment he found a new family. But every time when I started to connect to Hajuan, everything is taken away from me. I know it is like a way to show you that life is really unpredictable. Nothing is gonna be set up great for you. But at this point, you probably know that I am more of a character-driven reader that really needs something to root for. Every time when it looks like it's fine, it's like Hajun is slowly settling into this new life. Sorry mate, everything is taken away from you again. In this 60% that I have read, it is like this process being repeated so many times and I'm low-key tired of it. Let alone the pacing of this book is on the slower side. It really takes time to introduce to this new environment, new life or new companions that Hajun gonna meet. I mean now I'm slowly getting used to a slower pacing fantasy book, but please just don't take away all the things that I started care and then repeat the same process over and over again in just the first book of a brand new fantasy series. Also, this book is written in a second-person narrative and it is also the first time for me to read anything like this, and I hope this is not too confusing for you to listen. Sometimes I'll be confused or a bit lost, especially when Hajun is being so critical, so hard on himself when he look back on what he has gone through. So I'll have this question in my mind. It is quite a minor question though. Is it Hajun now making this sort of reflection, making this sort of observation, or is it like the feeling that he got at that moment? I know like it is like really minor things to look at in this fantasy book, but when I started to dwell on it so much, it just made me so confused. My mind is not that great. So with all these reasons, I don't really think I am in the best mindset to start this fantasy series. I know that the point that I stop at is like when the plot really unfolds, and because the life of Hajun is more stable now and he met some nice people, it seems like. But it is just so hard for me to really push through this book. I'm not gonna lie, it takes me a really long time to get used to this book, and it is already mid-August. I wouldn't really call it a hard DNF, more like a soft one or like a pause. In the future, when I more feel like it, when I think like it is the time to start it, I'll pick up right where I stopped. But I'm just worrying. I've actually pre-ordered the book 4 and 5 from the Book and Binding because you can see it is the edition from them and I don't really want to waste them. Would I really enjoy them in the future? How far are you into this series, guys? Is it going to be like this for the rest of the series, or is it like going to be any sort of changes? Because if it's going to be like book 1 for the rest, probably I wouldn't enjoy it. So I would really want to hear your thoughts on the Empire of Silence or the Sun Eater series. Ooh, I look so short. NG. No, it's too tall. Okay, it is much better, and it is actually mid-August already, and I haven't finished a book. So I do really need something that is more upbeat, easier to read. And so over the weekend, I've picked up my favorite epic fantasy series, the Echo Saga. And I am reading the sixth book, The Age of the King by Philip C. Quintrell. Do you know what? I am actually halfway through this book, and this series is just so easy to read compared to Sun Eater. If you haven't heard about the Echo Saga before, where were you? It is a 9-book long self-published epic fantasy series that is known for its intricate world building and action sequences. I am reading the sixth book of this series, also the last book of the second trilogy, so everything is just so intense. Without giving you too much here, this second trilogy starts 30 years after the first one. After enjoying peace for so many years, the dragon in this world sense the end of the age. There is a villain called the Crow, and he got defrosted after so many years, but his master plan was laid. In this second trilogy, we will follow a mix of new and familiar faces to see how they're gonna defend their home against not just the Crow but also a race called the Orcs. This second trilogy definitely reads darker than the first one because of the hopelessness. Our characters are being pushed to their limit to defend their country. So far, I'm over halfway through the story, can you believe it? And what an immersive read it is. And magically, after one chapter, you would, I don't know how to describe it, but you're just so eager to find out what's gonna happen next. One thing I do praise a lot about the Echo Saga is how seamless the chapters feel like. It is honestly so smoothly moved from one POV to another, and the whole structure feels so compact. The plot of this sixth book picks up right after the ending of the last one, so after such a massive battle, our characters need to have a moment to sit down, chill out, and think about what to do next. So cleverly, Quintrell introduced a regroup to pair up characters that haven't been together before and see what sort of chemistry they would bring. It is clever because it can expand the plot into further subplots, and it also helps to constantly bring out some sparks between those characters that haven't been together before. Every character has just gone through so much in the last books, so it is just so fun to see what they can bring to the table. And also, like I said in the wrap-up for the last 2 books, this second trilogy just successfully built up some really good villains. The Crow is like a mastermind that can see into the future, and he got his plan laid many thousands of years ago. So as a reader, we would have theories about how things gonna turn, but we are not sure. So you're just so eager to find out, am I right or not? Or is there any other more twist that can bring out? I wouldn't say I am a professional expert fan theories generator, but my thought is quite obvious, so I want some more twists and turns later in the ending. Another villain in this book is called Alon, who is like a thug but turned into someone important in court politics. Gosh, he is still the same old arrogant bad guy. But I love the depth that Quintrell gave to him. He is quite consistent in terms of his personality, still irritating, but that's what makes us, the readers, hate him so much. We also got some chapters from the Orcs King, like the one invading to our main character's world. He got something to do with the Crow and his plan, but it is still so fun to see another side of this villain. Overall, you can already tell how much I enjoyed this book, much better than Empire of Silence. This series is just like keep on hitting so hard and everything is just so good. Now, I just hope that I'm really ready for the final confrontation, and I hope my heart won't break. Bye guys! So guys, with this t-shirt, it's a Taylor thing you wouldn't understand. You know what? I enjoy being a clown. By the time you're watching this video, you will know that Taylor Swift is going to release her 12th album, The Life of a Showgirl. You know what? Me, a clown, want to do the pre-order. Yeah, I know, being a clown to order the pre-order. And you know what? I ordered the final, right? So, more variants coming out. Luckily, very luckily, I can cancel my pre-order and order the variant that I like. The variant I ordered is actually Baby, That's Show Business, Lovely Bouquet Golden Vinyl. I really love the color of the vinyl. The cover, a bit unusual, should we say. But here we are for reading. So guys, let me tell you something good. I have finished Age of the King by Philip C. Quintrell, and it actually didn't take me too long to really finish this book because this book is just so good, so easy to read, so easy to follow, and you really want to find out the ending of this second trilogy. Without telling you guys too much, the second half I have finished is more about how our characters gonna solve this massive crisis by splitting into different teams to see what they can uncover. Is there any like secret weapon, or like can you find any ally? Then of course we will also have the final confrontation that we have been waiting since book 4, as well as how this trilogy gonna link up to the next one. First of all, I would say the final confrontation is really smart. And like I said in the last update, by grouping different characters together is a really clever move. By this, we can really see the new interesting dynamic between these characters and bringing out different sides of them. Then it will lead up to the final battle that we have been anticipating since the 4th book. It is once again so cinematic, and it is just so cool to see how every character gonna contribute to this conflict by all the build up in this book. If I am being completely honest here, I think the final mess is not as bloody as I thought it's going to be, and I hope I didn't give out too much here. Finally, of course, we're gonna have the ending of this second trilogy and how it possibly hint the direction of the next one. And to be honest here, I don't really know how to describe my feelings. The ending opens up so many possibilities for the next installment and expand the world further. So once again, smart move. And if we are looking at the characters, I am quite satisfied with most of their ending. Vigon, his growth is just exceptional. He is one of the new characters introduced in the second trilogy, and at first I was like, I hope you don't mind I say it, but he's like a lap dog and I didn't really expect much from him. But seeing how much he has grown in this second trilogy, or how he gonna win the heart of his friends or his people, is so charming. The twist is also quite unexpected, so he kind of become my favorite character in this series. I don't really want to comment too much on Elijah because I think I will give out spoilers, but his chapters or like his POVs is definitely not easy to read because of all the pains he has to endure. He's an anti-hero, and I would even say his storyline is actually quite similar to Asher as in the first trilogy in terms of what he want to achieve. Same as Vigon, Elijah is also a new character introduced in the second trilogy. They were friends before, and seeing how much they have all grown, the end result is kind of similar, but the way they achieve it is totally different. Thinking like this, it is just so crazy. Other than these new faces, of course, I'm really happy to see the return of our familiar faces and how they gonna help to expand the world further. Let's say the dwarf's politics, which is missing from the first trilogy. I think the balance between these two generations is actually quite well executed. It is quite fun to see how the characters we have grown with in the first trilogy want to contribute in this new status quo, and how they want to pass their knowledge to the new generation. It almost reminds me of Greenbone Saga, especially with J Legacy, but the emotional impact is not as strong. Not just for the heroes, but also the villain in this story. Like I said in the last update, they were all well written. Let's say the Crow, at this stage, we know roughly what is in his mind, but not too really sure what he really want to achieve. So I guess this will be answered in the next trilogy, and I think it is going to be quite important. The Ox King, even as another major villain in this story, I found his plot quite compelling because we also got chapters from his point of view and seeing all the decisions he had made to lead up to the point of his ending is quite satisfying to read. That is also the reason why I enjoy reading the Echo Saga. It reminds me of the Wheel of Time, but you need to tone down the world building quite significantly. All the pieces we have gathered along this journey is so intricate. Also, this saga is like a combination of three trilogies. Everything is just so closely related, but you don't really feel overwhelming. I guess it is like the charm of Philip C. Quintrell. Everything is so well written and it is just so accessible, but you still got the depth that you would look for. My guess for the ending is not accurate, but I mean, we're just at the end of the second trilogy. We still have the next one to go. I guess we will find out, is my theory going to be right when we finish the ninth book? By the way, what I found so heartwarming about this series is how much it stresses on the fan family. All the characters we have met on this journey, especially for the allies, they may be growing up in a totally different background, or sometimes they may be even clashing. But see how well they bond together in order to achieve a greater goal, and to not really think about all the differences because of their cultures, because of their upbringing. I think it is like giving you some sort of heartwarming moment in this like very butch epic fantasy series. But is it going to be a 5-star read though? If I'm being honest, I'm not too sure here because I have just finished this book and my mind is still a bit cloudy. It is not like this book is bad, I don't like it. It is nothing like this. But how I would describe it is like, since the start of this second trilogy, I have been feeding with a feast. Coming to the last book of the second trilogy, I just don't know why. Of course, this book is on par with the others, but I just don't know why I have this moment of hesitation. So stay true to myself. If I think this book is on par with the other books in this second trilogy, then it should be a 5-star rate. Woohoo! Nearly the end of August, I finally finished the first book of this month. This month reading is absolutely awful. And here I didn't really plan my TBR that well. If you remember, I actually got 2 new releases for August. But you know what? By the time I finish Age of the King, they are not out yet. Yes, both of them is still not out yet. So I really need to make some changes here because otherwise I got nothing else to read. And at this stage, after finishing one kind of heavier, slower fantasy and like a quite an intense ending of a series, I really want something easier to read. I don't know when the Broken Binding did do a special edition for this set of books, but I just totally miss out the pre-sale of it. I'm talking about the Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, the first book of the Saint of Steel series. By the way, I'm actually thinking to read this on my Kobo because I think this series is only in print in the form of paperback, and the edition from the Broken Binding is the hardcover special edition. But look how much they are. It is crazy. Now, it is like the good old cover battle between the American and the British ones. If you look up for both editions of this book, actually I prefer the British one so much more. The American one is kind of dull and boring, and I really love how ugly beautiful the UK edition is. It looks really ugly because it looks so nostalgic, but it is something that I am really into. It is honestly such a shame that it is not printed in hardcover because I mean, all the editions I have on the shelves are hardcover. So back to this book. I think it is going to be a fantasy romance. Yes, fantasy romance, you heard it right. About a paladin who's like the god he has been following is dead. And for some reasons, he met up with a woman and they all got pulled into a bigger danger. That is what I know so far about this series. At this moment, I desperately need something that is so fun, so easy, so much shorter to read. So I think The Paladin's Grace is going to be a perfect choice. So guys, it didn't take me too long to finish Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, which is the first book of the Sing of Steel series. Honestly, I didn't expect myself gonna love this one, and I also didn't know it is going to be a romantasy. And if you know me well, me and romantasy don't usually mix well together. To give you some context here, it is my first time to read any work by T. Kingfisher, and I think she is more known for her work in horror and fantasy. But let me tell you something right here. Paladin's Grace is such a fun blast. Also, there is actually another series that is set in this same universe but took place some years ago. Obviously, I haven't checked that series out, but I don't really think it affects my reading experience that much. Maybe just missing like some sort of name of the places or like the previous political relationship, but that has nothing to do really with the main character or like what are they going through. This book begins with Stephen. One night he suddenly, for whatever reason, there is no explanation here, he lost his connection to his god. Since then, what happened with this group of people, these paladins that has bonded with this god, is that they will suddenly go crazy or like berserk and enter this sort of like bloodthirst killing spree. Or even the characters themselves don't know when will they start this sort of like crazy mindset. But luckily, this sort of like crazy situation bring this brotherhood closer together to look out for each other, especially when they go crazy. One night, Stephen met this woman called Grace, but for some reasons, Grace wanted to ask Stephen to do something weird, a bit sexual, just to escape from a danger. And remember, at this point, they were still strangers. Also, for whatever reason, this city is dangerous. There is a series of brutal murder. So what's going to happen later in this series is, of course, we're going to see how this romantic relationship gonna be developed in this dangerous situation. Also, how Stephen, this paladin gentleman, want to protect Grace from this danger, as well as Grace opening up her insecurity of her past. This really short novel, I don't have the physical copy here, but I don't think this book is any longer than 300 pages, packed with romance, darkish murder, political conspiracy, mystery, which is wild. I can tell you right now, right here, I enjoyed reading this book. I really love this kind of rom-com-ish, crazy, dramatic love story. I don't know about you guys, but reading this book reminds me of some sitcom that I have watched before, where you can hear the internal monologue of the characters. So putting this sort of like arrangement in this romantic book just makes the chemistry and the romance you feel for between Stephen and Grace more real, more fun. I did giggle out loud quite sometimes when I read those internal monologues. They are just silly but fun. Also, you may be thinking this book is packed with so many elements, let's say new characters, new court politics, new conspiracy, new murders. But I think the balance between each element just strike well here. You don't really feel awkward, weird when things suddenly turn into that way because you are sort of prepared for it. This sort of reminds me of why I don't like Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, another very popular YA romantasy. Looking back now between these two books, Paladin's Grace and Once Upon a Broken Heart, the elements presented in these two books are actually quite similar. But I think why ultimately I love Paladin's Grace more and far more, is that from the get-go, we know that this is going to be a romantic story between Grace and Stephen. And compared to Once Upon a Broken Heart, I feel like yes, even though we are still following that group of characters, we're just like suddenly thrown into this direction, and then like suddenly things can turn this way without any prior introduction. And I think also because of the context, we know that this is going to be a crazy, silly, fun love story. So under this like ridiculous situation, we know everything gonna be like this in Paladin's Grace. And I also love how Stephen and Grace slowly opening up their feelings and how their insecurities can stop them from taking a step forward, or how that can badly affect the romance they are slowly developing. I honestly had so much fun while I'm reading this book. It is just like a very silly, fun, romantic story. And I would probably give this one a 4-star, not a 5-star, which is a bit sad for this quest. But I mean, I don't think this book, Paladin's Grace, is the one that you look for that sort of emotional depth or that emotional investment, which I commonly connect more in a 5-star book. But still, I think it is a really solid romantasy, and I would definitely continue with it. By the way, I have just filmed my September TBR for Magical Readathon, and from there, you will know that I struggled quite badly with one of the prompts, Magic of Prime, where you need to find a book that the number of words in the title is in a prime number. I count most of the books on my physical TBR, and I don't have anything that is fit for this purpose. But you know what? After completing, or while I was reading, I was doing my calculation again. Paladin's Grace got 13, and it is a prime number. I can actually save it for the Magical Readathon. But don't worry here, because I have already fixed this issue. I finally can come up with one book to fulfill this prompt. So we have come to the end of this month's 5-star quest. Honestly, this month is quite shit in terms of the number of books that I have read. We have only got 3, and one of them is even a DNF, which I nearly completed. But luckily, I found 2 quite enjoyable reads. One is a nice romantasy, and the other one is a thrilling conclusion of an epic fantasy series. So how about you? How was your reading in August? Did you find any 5-star book, or are you like me finding a DNF? You can share all your thoughts in the comment below. So thank you for watching, guys. If you don't want to miss out any fantasy TBR wrap up fun video ideas, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all real soon. Goodbye.